Good evening, everyone. I'm Phil Lipoff. You are watching continuing coverage of Splashdown Day for SpaceX. The crew right now is getting into one of the most critical and dangerous periods of the landing process, through which there is no communication in either direction for 7 minutes as the world waits for the return of SpaceX all-civilian flight to Earth's orbit with 4 occupants on board. You are watching Mission Control right now. Billionaire Jared Isaacman, 38, is commanding the mission. 29-year-old St. Jude ambassador Haley Arsenault, who is also a child cancer survivor and a physician assistant at the hospital. Dr. Cyan Proctor, 51, the 3rd occupant, made history as well as the 4th African-American woman astronaut to travel into space. Chris Simbrowski, 41, an Iraq war veteran and engineer with Lockheed Martin. The nail-biting re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere will heat the exterior of the vehicle up to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, then deploying 2 sets of parachutes in rapid succession to slow the descent. The Crew Dragon capsule is expected to land off the coast of Florida. And while we wait for that to happen, we are going to bring you the Splashdown, of course, live in just a few minutes. But in the immediate future, the SpaceX Inspiration 4 crew has been making the most of their time up in space. You've seen live pictures of them. Our transportation correspondent, Gio Benitez, has the latest.
The Inspiration 4 crew beaming back stunning new images from orbit. An orbital sunset as they circle the Earth at 23 times the speed of sound. This is the ship's cupola, and Haley Arsenault, the youngest American in space, gives us a tour.
This is the largest window ever flown in space. We can put our head in and fit multiple crew members and see the entire perimeter of the Earth.
Haley works at the St. Jude Children's Hospital, where she was once a patient. As they try to raise $200 million for the hospital, the crew spoke live with the children there now, answering their questions.
What kind of sleeping bag do you have?
Hey, Miss Ava, thank you for that question. So if you've ever been camping, we pretty much have those same kind of sleeping bags. And we had a seatbelt around our sleeping bags so we didn't fly away when we were sleeping.
Can you take pictures in space?
Great question. We absolutely can take pictures in space, and we've been taking a lot of both pictures and video so we can capture this moment and share it with everybody when we come home.
While moving at 17,500 miles per hour, orbiting the Earth about 16 times every day, the crew has been conducting experiments, some with this portable ultrasound.
Measuring our cornea and optic nerve for indications on intracranial pressure.
We've also been taking several swabs of different parts of our body to evaluate the microbiome and how that changes in these 3 days in space.
Now, in just minutes, the crew plans to splash down in the ocean just like this, with recovery boats standing by.
It is just spectacular. You feel your heart beating faster as they get closer. Gio Benitez joins me now, as well as Katie Coleman, ABC News contributor and former NASA astronaut, and astrophysicist Hakeem Oluseyi. Guys, thanks for joining us. We are just minutes away from this communication blackout. Gio, to you, this is the most dangerous part of this mission. It's scary.
Without a doubt. You mentioned that 3,500 degrees. That's what it's going to get up to on the exterior of the space ship. But on the inside, it's going to get up to just 85 degrees. And that's the way SpaceX built this ship. Now, what's interesting about this is the Crew Dragon Resilience. This has flown before, Phil. It has done this before with the very first crew back in November 2020 when it returned back in May 2021. It went through this same thing and it was a success. So we expect that with this too. But right now, what's happening is the heat shield that they have under the spaceship, that's what's going to go and re-enter the atmosphere, but because there is just so much heat, fire building up around the spaceship, that's why you lose communications.
And Katie, let's bring you in here. We understand we're about 4 minutes away from this communication blackout. You have been there. Tell us what is going through the minds of the folks on the ship.
I think they are focused on the timeline, focused on their responsibilities. There's a lot of monitoring to do that they've been trained to do. And I think that they are really excited excited as well because entry is this amazing thing to see where it's just unbelievable colors outside the windows. I mean, that heats up because basically that capsule is sort of slamming into molecules, breaking them apart. And when they come back together, that's when they make that plasma. And so they're making unbelievable colors, and they can actually see the reflection of that outside inside the cabin. It's reflected on those white surfaces. So it'll be amazing.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that, right, Gio? She explains this beautifully.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. Hakeem, talk about the magnitude of this moment. How big a moment is this in space travel?
Well, this is huge because we have civilians up there doing this in a virtually autonomous craft. We had trained astronauts do this in the same craft previously, but now they are civilians. But another thing to keep into consideration is we've made a big deal about the high altitude that they went to. And when you're orbiting the Earth, you're falling. And when you're re-entering the atmosphere, you're falling. And so what we know is that the higher the altitude from which you fall, the faster you go when you reach the ground. So when they re-enter, they're going to be moving at an incredibly high speed. And the physics that creates that heat, a lot of those processes depend on the speed. But not just if you double the speed, you increase the heating. For some processes, you double the speed, you get 4 times the heating. Another process, you double the speed, you get it varies to the speed to the 8th power. So there's a lot of great physics going on here. There's a lot of great engineering going on here. And even though they're focused on what they're doing, I bet they're all incredibly happy that that guy is no longer playing that ukulele.
And we are entering this blackout period.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to that, and that's why I'm a journalist and not an astrophysicist. That is just spectacular.
Wouldn't you love to have Hakeem and Katie as your professors? I mean, they explained it so clearly.
Absolutely. And so while we're waiting for this, and then we have 2 sets of chutes to deploy, okay, so we're being told they're in this communication blackout. Katie, back to you. This is now 7 minutes where everybody in mission control, everybody around the world watching, holds their breath because this is the first time there's really no communication.
Well, we actually have planned ones that happen, but this one, even though we know it's going to happen, it's hard to sit through because there's nothing that we can do except wait. And yet, we have landed the Dragon capsule several times, and we have this kind of blackout in the shuttle as well. So there's a certain faith that we have. The crew right now is going to be busy. Actually, the G's will start to build up. They'll actually feel that, feel that sort of through their chest, up to 4.5 G's. It's really quite considerable. So that'll be challenging, but they're also having that view out the window.
And Katie, tell me a little bit about those G's, because when it's falling to the Earth, they're going to feel those G's on their body, but they're sort of sitting in reverse, right? It's not the same as when they were launching up, so it's going to feel very different.
Well, they're actually facing, they're facing backwards and down, but they're still just going so fast that's what the G's are coming from. And so even in their seats actually rotate into different positions depending on the phase of flight.
Hey, Katie, once they get through this and the parachutes deploy and they get down, talk to us a little bit about what's happening to their bodies and what needs to happen from there on.
Well, once they're done with what we call entry, where it's really just the atmosphere slowing them down, they're going about 350 miles an hour. Remember, they were going 17,500 miles an hour. So that's really a big slowdown just through the atmosphere. And then the drogue chute, which is sort of the leader chute, two chutes will come out. And those actually ensure that the big chutes, the big 4 parachutes that really stop them, can come out. And that'll get them down to 16 miles an hour when they land. And I've talked to Victor Glover, one of the folks who came home on Crew 1, and he shared that entry was just amazing, but especially that splashdown, that when those chutes pull out, they can actually feel that stop, and they can almost feel sort of a bounce back up. That almost, he said he got that sort of weightless feeling in his stomach when the chutes were coming out, whether it's because they're reefing and kind of getting themselves organized, those parachutes, or whether it's because there really is sort of a down, stopping, and then bouncing back up. He said it was remarkable, and that landing on the water was like landing on a trampoline.
Unbelievable. Hakeem.
During this time, no.
Yes, sir.
No
Sorry, you wanted to jump in. Go ahead.
by mission control or
Oh, no, I was just thinking about what Katie was saying and thinking about the forces that are on your body. And if you think about the difference between launch and reentry, where you started, one difference is that when you launch, the atmosphere is getting thinner and thinner. But when you re-enter, the atmosphere is getting thicker and thicker. And when you talk about going from 17,500 kilometers per hour or miles per hour, and then slowing down to 350, where did all of that kinetic energy go? It went into the heat. So, you know, I am just amazed by the engineering that goes on here. The shape of the vehicle, the materials that are used, the autonomous aspects, the fact that the seats can change their positions so that the forces on those human bodies are such that they are favorable to being healthy throughout the voyage, because the last thing you want is the fluids in your body going to one extreme, your head, or to the other extreme, your feet. So this is amazing technical marvels we're looking at here.
It really is. And while we're waiting for this to happen, I understand we have about 2 minutes or so left in this communication blackout. Gio, I want to go to you because I don't want to lose sight of the mission. This is about St. Jude's. Tell us about this and how much money they have raised.
So basically, Jared Isaacman, when he got these tickets, he says, you know, I don't want to just get these seats and just make it be meaningless. I want it to mean something. So right away, he said, I'm going to raise money, and I want to raise $200 million for St. Jude Children's Hospital. Right away, he donated $100 million. With the sale of some of these seats and the auctions and all of that.
Good way to reach your goals.
Yeah, they got about $30 million from the auctions and things like that. Right now, I'm looking at the fundraiser right now. We're looking at over $500,000 since liftoff on Wednesday.
It's a win-win.
It is a win-win. And I'm sure after this, there's going to be more money coming from somebody to meet that $200 million goal. But this is huge to end childhood cancer. That is the goal for Jared Isaacman.
And watching them talk in your story to the kids at St. Jude was really amazing.
So powerful. That moment right there is one that a lot of people will remember.
Absolutely. Katie, we are just, probably a minute away, 60 seconds, they're telling me, from this. The people inside Mission Control right now holding their breath, right?
Blackout period.
I'm sure they are. I mean, I know the way I feel when I'm working as a Capcom, and you just, you know something is coming, and you know it's so important. And it's because this is about people, and the fact that we've got people in this situation. I tell people that, we don't fly in space because it's safe. We fly in space because we trust the people that build the vehicles, that design the missions and monitor them to have done their best. But it's still never going to be a safe sport.
No, and Akeem, we're watching Mission Control, and no doubt they are going to cheer any minute now when they gain communication back. The more this happens, the better the space program gets, right? I mean, we're now going higher and higher. There it is. Do you hear that? Let's listen
I just heard the celebration there. So I'm guessing that means that they have now reestablished communications, but maybe not. When you look at these missions and the danger that's associated, the more power in the vehicle, the more complex the more danger is involved. Now, this is a mission that is a first. So there's a lot of eyes, and everybody's being incredibly careful. But as we go forward with this civilian space program, we don't want to treat it like it's a run-of-the-mill type of activity, right? The same care should be taken for every single mission.
Let's just take a listen for a second. I mean, we just heard them cheer, so they've got communication back, and now they got a visual. And we're now in the final stages of, re-entry and splashdown. Gio, you've covered this flight since the beginning. The 5-hour window, everything that went with it, and we watched you cover this from the beginning. What does this like to see this come to fruition?
I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing because we're talking about an all-civilian crew. The first time an all-civilian crew goes without an astronaut into orbit.
What you're seeing on your screen right now is on the left-hand side. That is Mission Control Hawthorne.
And there we go. We're seeing those live pictures right now.
Nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Not very high resolution because obviously they are still very far away.
We'll cut them some slack on that.
They will get very clear the closer they get.
And Katie, looking at these pictures, do you have any idea?
Those comms confirm that we have regained comms with Dragon, and they're getting ready for drogue deploy here shortly.
Yeah, I love these tracking shots. Again, that is Dragon in the center of your screen. We've got visuals of it, and we're expecting drogue chutes deploy.
While they've got the visual, Katie,
shortly after that.
About 5.5 minutes was the blackout. You know, I know you're not in mission control out there in California, but can you tell us about how far the ship is away now? What are we looking at here exactly?
So they're just about to do drogue chute deploy, and that means they're about 18,000 feet. And that, I mean, we're talking airliner altitudes, right? And the main chutes come out at about 6,500 feet. I mean, it's really close to the ground. So it's interesting to me that, you know, they were, you know, 300 miles up in space.
And I believe we just heard them cheer again, so that would probably be the deployment of one set of chutes.
That's right, and those chutes will start stabilizing the Crew Dragon. And once it's stabilized, that's when they'll start slowing it down with those bigger chutes. And those bigger chutes that comes out, I mean, wait till you see them, because they are just huge parachutes. And we will see that happen.
And Jay, I was talking to you before we went on the air about the actual landing. I mean, you think this is a spacecraft coming down. It was at 17,500 miles per hour. Like, the splashdown, you say, is actually kind of gentle.
Yeah, and you know, that's what Victor Glover, I was talking to Katie earlier, and Victor Glover, who was on this exact same spaceship when they landed in May 2021. And that same spaceship, he says, it was pretty gentle. She said it was like a trampoline as they hit the water.
Oh, look at that, Gio. I just saw the chutes. It really is an amazing thing when you think about second set of chutes, probably.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
Yep. Here we go.
Good to see
And they're still falling.
No, I think these might be.
Yeah, so this is a really...
Katie, I don't know if you can see this feed, but are those the drogues or are those the main chutes right there?
This is a great shot of Draken looking up at the drogue chutes.
It looks like these are the drogue chutes. Okay, so
yeah.
These are the chutes that are stabilizing the spaceship. These are not the big ones. These are just stabilizing it.
And now they're falling through clouds. Now they're back here and they're falling through clouds.
They are back on planet Earth.
We are expecting the main chutes for these to cut off and the main chutes to come shortly after this.
So we're waiting for the main chutes. Any second.
And there we go. So they've released those drogue chutes.
See 4 chutes up there. That's what you want to see.
Now, how long until splashdown?
So, I mean, now we're just minutes away at this point. They were scheduled to land at about 7:06, so we're just about 2 minutes away here. It's coming up pretty quickly.
Katie, your thoughts as you're watching this?
Copy that, SpaceX. Good news.
Katie, you there?
I am there. I just couldn't hear your question.
Oh, sorry. The question was your thoughts as you were watching this.
Just actually wanting to see those 4 chutes. You know, and you know, we all know the process. We've looked at the timeline. You know, there's supposed to be 2, and then they're going to go away. 4 will come, and you just want to see those 4 chutes. You know, when they come out gradually, because we don't want to stop all at once, but they're slowing down and landing will be actually very, very quickly.
And we know about where they're landing. There are people waiting for them. How fast do those boats get to the space?
So they have been preparing for days now, and they've been, you know, we've been watching to see where they were planning to go, and those boats were preparing both in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. The intent here is to land in the Atlantic, and it looks like that's what's going to happen, because they want this will be the first Crew Dragon to land in the Atlantic Ocean.
That was important to them, too.
That was important to them. Another milestone. You know, everything with SpaceX is they want to make things historic, and that's another thing. And look how huge those parachutes are. That is slowing it down so that you have that gentle water landing.
You use the word huge. The entire process, the magnitude of this, what it means for the human race, watching this is just breathtaking.
Well, because the whole point for Elon Musk is he eventually wants humans to have a second home in Mars, okay? And he wants people to get to Mars, and he wants to be able to transport people between the Earth and Mars. And so we are going to see more and more and more civilians go farther and farther and farther into space. 367 miles is how far they got. No doubt about it. They're going to be pushing those limits with other spaceships.
You're saying the commander actually wanted to go farther than that?
Oh, he did, right away. And SpaceX said, you know, this is really pushing the limit. But he did. He says, if we could, I really do want to go farther than that.
It's kind of like one step at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and he did go farther, by the way. They originally thought it was going to be about 360 miles. They got to 367. So, you know, they really went out there.
Hakeem, you're watching this, and we're watching we're watching everything change. Every single time we see one of these successful trips, we're watching it change. And they're 200 feet. Did you say 200 feet from the water?
That's what it sounds like.
Go ahead, Hakeem.
Second.
Yeah, well, I saw a meme on the internet this last week that said maybe Elon Musk is making a space program because he's an alien and he's trying to get back home. Well, when you leave your planet, getting back home safely is your desire. And so even though everything has gone right up to now, I personally can't wait till I see their smiling faces stepping out of that capsule.
Here we go. Let's listen and let's watch this. There we go.
And there's splashdown.
Amazing. Picture perfect. Exactly what they were looking for.
Exactly what they were looking for. And you sort of see it, and it looks a little bit like a toasted marshmallow, and that's because of what it just went through.
Well, it's toasted indeed. 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
On behalf of SpaceX, welcome home to planet Earth. Your mission has shown the world that space is for all of us, and that everyday people can make extraordinary impacts in the world around them. Thank you for sharing your leadership, hope, generosity, and prosperity. And congratulations on your incredible journey.
I mean, can you imagine being out there in mission control?
And usually during NASA missions, right, they'll get over there and they'll say, oh, I think we're hearing them.
Just getting started.
Copy, just getting started.
Yeah, you want to hear from them.
So welcome back. Inspiration 4, the Dragon Resilience capsule has returned. The crew has returned. What a phenomenal
And
visual that we
one
got.
of the things they say when during NASA missions, because NASA basically buys seats, right? They pay $55 million per seat on the SpaceX Crew Dragon to send astronauts up to the International Space Station. So when they land, they always say, thank you for flying SpaceX. Like if it's like, thank you for flying American Airlines, thank you for flying SpaceX. But in this case, it is a SpaceX mission.
It is, and it's like Elon Musk wants that to be the way we live in the future. Thank you for flying SpaceX.
Yeah.
Tray tables and seats in your upright position.
Well, I think at one point he tweeted to them and he says, you know what? We'll get you free Wi-Fi next time.
Nice. Katie, take a look at this. They're actually getting out there. There's a vessel that's going out to the crew right now. What's going on with them right now? How do they feel physically?
I'm imagining, the last crew that landed, I heard they all felt quite well, that we've sort of figured out those equations. And I think it's a relief to get this kind of phase of flight over. I mean, launch and landing are the most dangerous parts. And I think there's got to be some relief. There's got to be a lot of joy in the success of the mission, which is something it means to the whole team. That first boat that goes out there is actually going to just make sure that there's not residual fuel that could be dangerous for anyone trying to access the outside of the capsule.
And after that come the reinforcements that will actually get them out of the vessel, and then I guess they're going to be flown by helicopter, as you mentioned, to Florida.
Right. Well, they're in there. I mean, I don't know what the limit is. I think they're right outside Cape Canaveral as we speak. I loved what SpaceX said when they said, welcome back to planet Earth, and they talked about, the difference that everyday humans can make. And I would actually say that Elon Musk would say that he himself is one of those humans. I mean, I think that the large implication of this mission and why it's just so fascinating to all of us is that what's important, we actually won't get to Mars unless we make sure that a lot of people get to be part of that endeavor. And because if you just pick people that all come from the same background and think the same, we are not going to make it. And the fact that this crew got trained, real people, they shine as beacons to so many people. All of us, I think, have a little bit in common with each of the people on that crew. And it inspires us that when we have those ideas, we should make sure we bring them up.
And I was just thinking about that because you talk about the crew, Gio, and the commander, 38-year-old billionaire who was a counselor at space camp when he was a kid. So his whole life, he's wanted to do this. He's fortunate enough that his company brought him the money that he could spend on doing this. But you think about everybody in that vessel right now, but the commander.
You know, when I was sitting there or standing there watching this launch, I just thought about children, and it made me emotional because I was thinking about children watching this on television and seeing what's possible, right? You have Haley Arsenault, just 29 years old, the youngest American in space, and it just makes you think, gee, these kids are growing up in a world where the sky is no longer the limit.
That's right.
Right? The universe is the limit. Now you can go beyond that. And I think that's what's going to be so interesting, because I think a lot of people are going to look at this and, you know, there's a lot of criticism, right, where people are saying these are just tourist flights, you know, these are just joy rides for millionaires. And in many ways that is true. But you also have the science that's happening. You also have other people like Haley Arsenault, like Dr. Proctor, like Chris Zimbrowski, who are going up there. And now they have this mission to help humanity and do it in a really special and important way.
And you can't overlook the mission of the mission. Can you check one more time for us how much money they have raised?
Let's see. Right now we're at $560,000, and it is just going up. And this is since Wednesday's liftoff.
Right. Okay. So as we're watching them take care of the crew that has splash landed back to Earth, welcome back to Earth. Final thoughts. Katie, we'll start with you.
And some other operations.
It's a relief, and it's just so great to have them home. But you know, a bit of a relief as well. I'm just so glad to see everything go so well, and actually just to set this example. And I think about Jared Isaacman and the example that he decided to set with this crew. And it's one thing to sort of do something amazing for the power of good, but to do it in a way that people know about it, to do philanthropy in a way that you raise the bar for everyone else, and that other people, I think, will be inspired to bring others that might not be able to go with them on these missions. And I know that as a person who's been to space, it's really the greatest regret not to be able to bring others with you. So I love the example that is set by this mission.
And Hakeem, you couldn't contain the excitement. None of us could. Final thought from you, sir.
Well, you know what this says to me, what I see here is not just the technological achievements, but also our evolution as a society, as Americans. When I think about Dr. C.N. Proctor and her father supporting Apollo 7 through Apollo 13 in the 1960s, I think about people like Julius Montgomery, the first African-American at Cape Canaveral, or Morgan Watson, the first in engineering. And yet now you have Dr. C.N. Proctor. She is the pilot. You have me on here, right, from my humble beginnings. We have evolved so far, and we still have a bit to go, but look at where we've come. I mean, I am so proud of us as Americans.
And Gio, final thought, because you have covered this from the beginning. Out there at the launch, you've held your breath like everybody else.
When you're just watching that, you are so nervous, and you're just make sure everything goes right. 47 orbits. These people have seen what no other private citizen on planet Earth has seen. No other private citizen on this planet has ever been as far as they were. Obviously, astronauts did get to the moon. That was much farther. But private citizens have never been this far. And that is quite the achievement. So when we look at those pictures of the cupola and Earth right there, they were waking up to a sight that no one else on this planet was looking at the same time.
And now they'll be looking for their astronaut wings.
That's right.
All right. Gio Benitez, Katie Coleman, Hakeem O'Shea, thank you so much for joining us tonight and witnessing that together. SpaceX will hold a briefing later on tonight at 8:30 Eastern. We're going to bring that to you live when it happens, of course. Until then, that does it for now, as we all kind of witness this together. I'm Phil Lipoff. Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. Have a great night.
Call it a nest.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.